Environment Secretary Steve Barclay has warned thousands of farmers would go out of business under a Welsh Labour scheme. Over 20,000 farms would be at risk of going bust if conservation schemes brought in by Labour in Wales are imposed in England, the Environment Secretary has warned. Writing in the Daily Express, Steve Barclay predicts a devastating impact on rural livelihoods if the sustainable farming scheme is rolled out under DlSASTR0US. He said, "Thanks to our exit from the bureaucratic EU Common Agricultural Policy, we are tailoring our support schemes to our farmers' needs. Yet all that progress could be ruined by switching to Labour." The scheme to reward sustainable farm management was put forward by the Welsh Government to replace EU subsidies, which farmers can no longer access after Brexit. But there was a furious backlash over measures, including the requirement to plant 10% of farmland with trees and use another 10% as a wildlife habitat, to be eligible for the government payments. Farmers across Wales gathered last month to protest the proposals, arguing they could result in lower food production levels and job losses. Farmer Will Ashby in East Sussex, pictured, described the scheme as madness and said, "It is vital that farmers are allowed to farm or they will be forced out of business." And now the Welsh Tories have warned that new First Minister Vaughan Gething, continuing his predecessor Mark Drakeford's legacy, should set alarm bells ringing for farmers across England. Shadow Minister for Economy and Energy, Welsh Conservative MS Samuel Kurtz, said, "The UK's farming future is under threat thanks to Labour's plans, which could already see 5,500 jobs lost in rural Wales." This should set alarm bells ringing for farmers across England. We've seen in Wales firsthand how food production has fallen down the list of priorities, all while bovine TB and outdated water regulations continue to stifle our farmers and the good work that they do. As Labour slowly release their plans, it's clear that only the Conservatives are the party backing our farmers, food production and our rural communities. Mr. Kurtz, who was until last week the Shadow Minister for Rural Affairs and the Welsh Language, was referring to a Welsh Government-commissioned report on the consultation of the SFS scheme, which predicted it could result in 5,500 job losses. Labour have denied they will roll out the Welsh policy under Sir Keir Starmer's leadership, with a source telling the Daily Express, "We have no plans to do this." Instead, Sir Keir's party says it is committed to making the current grant system work under the Environmental Land Management Scheme, the government's new funding programme to replace the EU Common Agricultural Policy for farmers, foresters, and land management. But at Welsh Labour's March 2022 conference, Sir Keir said its government was a blueprint for what we can do across the UK. And a document setting out details of Labour's energy policy, launched as one of Sir Keir's 5 missions for government, says, Labour has a strong environmental legacy, from creating national parks to opening up access to nature in the countryside and Rights of Way Act. We will take this further, growing nature-rich habitats like wetlands and forests, as the Welsh Labour government has done, for families to explore and wildlife to thrive, taking biodiversity off life support. But a Labour source hit back, saying that under the Conservatives more than 6,000 agricultural businesses have gone bust and a third of the workforce has left the sector since 2017.